Movies that changed history, and he also made appearances in such films as Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Stephen King's The Stand, and also had one of the best commentaries ever for a movie for I Spit on Your Grave. He's also the man behind the 3 Bs, Blood, Boobs, and Beasts. Also one of the 2 people that I've looked up to all my life. The other one's in the front area of Belcrate Hill signing autographs right now. Also, Joe Bob has redefined how to review movies with the phrase food. And as you know, he's a legendary drive-in movie host, Joe Bob Briggs.
We have such a cozy crowd. I think everyone should stand up and identify themselves and tell me how you spent your summer vacation. How many are actually from the city of Pittsburgh? That's what I thought, like just 4. And everyone else drove in from vast distances, right? Because in Pittsburgh, it's so like common to have horror cons and zombie fests, and it's like Pittsburgh is sort of the capital of horror, so everyone gets jaded. So all you people that came in from West Virginia and Ohio and eastern Pennsylvania, thank you. All right, so does anyone have any questions? We haven't really prepared anything. I can talk about anything. I have, something will kick in my brain. If you ask me, if you just throw out a word, something will kick in. Okay.
TNT, how long were you on it?
I was on TNT for about 4.5 years. What happened is I was originally on the movie channel for 9 years. And I was out of a job I don't even think I was off the air more than maybe 1 month or something between the 2 networks. Because by the time we shot the last show on the movie channel, I had already made a deal to go over to TNT, and actually, I mean, it's kind of, remember when Bob Newhart did his 2nd show and it was exactly like the first show? That's kind of, we did the same thing. I mean, we even used the same sets and the same studio and the same crew and the same everything. And the name changed, and they put up some, TNT had a little bit more money than the movie channel had, and so they built some new sort of stuff to make it look a little slicker. But essentially, it was the same chair and the same living room and the same trailer and everything. So, but that was 4.5 years on TNT, and then they changed formats. They wanted to be more female friendly was their new format, and they bought a lot of female friendly shows. And my show had always skewed very male. If you did any kind of research on it, it was a male show. I mean, I think partly because horror was male, and it was not. Yeah, I mean, it was like 62% male or something, and in TV terms, that's like saying all male. So that's why I didn't survive the format change.
Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, for me, because I'm not as rabid as Tim might be, how did it all start? How did it come about? Did you pitch the show?
Well, the TV show?
Yeah, you're starting the movie channel even. I
was doing a one-man show called Joe Bob Briggs Dead in Concert. And there were 2 things. I was doing the one-man show, and I did an article for Rolling Stone. I went to the set of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 to interview Dennis Hopper. The Rolling Stone wanted an interview with Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper had disappeared for many years, and he was coming back. And oddly enough, he was coming back in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. That was his comeback role. And actually, he had an agent at the William Arts Agency who begged him not to do it. And I said, "Why did you do it?" And he said, "Well, because it was Willie Nelson's birthday, and he's a good friend of mine, and he plays golf, and I wanted to go to Austin." And so, that's why he made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which I thought he was very good in. And so I had gone down to Austin and written this article for Rolling Stone, and on the movie channel they had the movie channel was the 4th premium channel. It was like the only people that had it were people who already had HBO, Showtime, and Cinemax. Then if you still, if that wasn't enough movies for you, you might go ahead and buy the movie channel. So they had a couple million subscribers, maybe more than that, I can't remember how many. But they had trouble developing franchises, and they had no money for, like, they were tied into the movie channel. The fact that movie was in the name of the channel meant that they had to be 24/7 movies. And so there was no way to draw people to original programming. And so they decided that they would have hosts, and they had 4 hosts. And they had one guest host portion of the network. And so they asked me to come and be a guest host for 1 month. And then they invited me back the 2nd month, and they invited me back the 3rd month. And then finally it just evolved into a regular show. And originally they had like 5 or 6 different sets, and all the different hosts would be there filming, and then a host would get fired and you wouldn't see him anymore, and then his set would slowly disappear, and then the next host would get fired, and then you wouldn't see his sets anymore. And finally it was just me with this set in this corner of this lonely, vast stage in Spanish Harlem. It's the stage of the old Dumont Studios. It was actually where The Honeymooners was filmed. And it was a bad part of town, and you had to like take a cab there because it was dangerous to go there. And I said, look, I could probably do this a lot cheaper if we just did this in Texas. And so we moved the whole thing to Dallas. And most years of the movie channel show were filmed in this studio that was owned by Ross Perot. Remember when he ran for president? For some reason he felt like he needed to build a whole movie studio when he ran for president. So remember, he just stood in front of a chart and he pointed to the, pop-up arrow. There's the federal budget, and I'm going to solve this problem. Well, when he was standing in front of his pop-up chart, if you had just swung the camera about 30 degrees, you would have seen the whole Joe Bob set over there. There was only 2 people that ever used that studio, Ross Perot and Joe Bob Briggs. And it was the nicest TV studio I've ever been in my life. It's like TV studios are usually just like a concrete warehouse, they're horrible. And it's like Ross Perot had beautiful cafeteria and beautiful dressing rooms and all this stuff. And so, but we were the only people that were ever in there. And so so for years we filmed the show in the Ross Perot studio, and pretty much did whatever we wanted. And then we went over to, and of course on premium cable you can do everything that you want. I mean, the only time we ever got censored was one year we did a Christmas show where we had a Baptist and a Catholic and a Unitarian and some other religion, maybe it was a Muslim or something, and to celebrate the ecumenical spirit of the holidays. And they get into a fist fight and destroy the set. And so we sent the show in, and it was just like a Christmas gag. And they said, we can't air this show, and you got to reshoot it. And it was just one line, because I had written a script, and it was just a Baptist guy saying to the Jewish guy, "We love you even though you killed Jesus." And because of that one line, they didn't want to air the whole show. And so I don't know if we changed the line or we somehow softened the line, but anyway, that was the only time we ever got censored. And it was a different story at TNT. There was constant memos about words, including words that were nonsense words. They have a list of forbidden words that you can't say on TNT, and I would invent words that would show up on the list, you know. I can remember having a conversation with the standards and practices person about the word slopehead. I just invented slopehead. And they said it was an Asian slur. And I said, no, you're mistaken. You're confusing it with the word slant eye. Slant eye is an Asian slur. If I wanted to make an Asian slur, I would say slant eye. I said slopehead. It means somebody with a stupid looking head that slopes in the wrong direction. You know, it doesn't mean an Asian. And they said, well, nevertheless, it remains on the forbidden word list as we think it's an Asian slur. And so we would have ridiculous conversations like that about things you could or could not say on the air. But and they always said, we have to be careful about Congress passing laws that regulate cable television. And I would say, you're telling me that because of the potential of someday a congressman saying something about TNT, we have to like censor ourselves? And they said, yes, that's what we're saying. And so they would never show, neither network would ever show the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which would have been the obvious thing for me to host. And because it was on the Too Grisly for Cable list, and there were about 10 films that you couldn't show, and that was one of them. And it was, and the reason is because politicians would make speeches about it. They would say, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is exactly the kind of thing that's wrong with the morality of this country, and they would always use it as an example, and so everyone was afraid to show it. And so, for a while, Pieces couldn't be shown, because the National Organization for Women had targeted it as an anti-female film, which I never understood, because I can't see that there's any more female